Absolutely. I've got no problem telling any one of our customers, yes, it voids your warranty. But the great thing is we have two amazing manufacturers that we install with that they put the warranty back on your windows. Film can break your window if you install the wrong film.
Being a good leader and taking care of people and making sure they know that you're actually there for them and you got their back is everything. You've tried hiring somebody or multiple times and it's never working out. There's one common denominator there. Most people don't want to admit it because of their ego.
Referrals are everything too. You make one customer happy, it's going to make, like you said, their neighbors happy, their friends want to come to us.
It's one of those things that I'd say my dad has tried to drive into all of us is that word of mouth is everything. When things go down, when things are hurting, because of our imprint and our word of mouth, that help keep us afloat. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Brendan Turnage with the Miller Brothers. I'm Ricky. I'm thrilled to be here with my co-host, Josh.
How's it going? Today we have a very special guest, Brendan Turnage. Brendan's been with us for a really long time. In this episode, we're going to talk about the muster from Echelon Front that Ricky and Brendan went to together. Little history on Brendan working with us in the shop. Get into a little ultra marathon talk, a lot of extreme ownership talk, a call out to the Echelon Front team to come on the podcast, and much more.
My name is Brendan Turnage. I've been working for you for close to 19 years now. I think in 18 and a half years now.
How old were you?
I first started, I think, when I was 16. It was 2005.
Yeah, damn, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah, I mean, I believe when you started, that's when I started getting more and more, I guess, serious with working. I think when I was, 10, 11 years old, I was picking up trash and following my dad around.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think when you went full-time, that's when I was at a point where I think I had my learning permit driving and got my license. And then I was actually able to, after school or on weekends, stuff like that, actually come down to the shop and work more and actually start earning some money.
Yeah, definitely, because we were both in school at that time, too. And I was just about to graduate. And that's when I really went full-time with work after that.
I know beforehand what'd you do beforehand?
Beforehand, I worked with my friend's company. They owned a concrete foundation company, and I just changed oil in their big box trucks and tractors and all that.
So what brought you into the company?
Brought you in, you guys brought me in because I dated the owner's daughter.
That's more likely what I was going to get at. No, I think it was one of those things I think Nichelle might have came to, which I might be off on this. I'm not sure. I have to talk to Nichelle about it. But I think Nichelle had a small conversation with my dad. And then we also knew what my understanding was from what I can remember. She filled my dad in on what you were already doing.
Yeah, because I already worked a few jobs before I worked with the Whipples too.
I'm assuming that's what drove my dad to
Yeah, I had a few jobs that I already worked since I was like 14. He liked that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, I would say it's something that we look for almost now. I'd say the young guys that even been brought into the company are kind of like that same type of mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can teach anybody to tint, but you can't teach to drive.
Yeah, you can't teach the work ethic part really either. Yeah. You can influence it, but.
Yeah.
All right, well, with that small introductory, I know this past weekend, we were able to go to the muster 017 in Dallas, put on by Echelon Front by Jocko and Leif. Something that I've been really wanting to go back to myself. And heading into the muster, I had my own thoughts and beliefs heading into it. I knew what I wanted to go get out of it, but at the same time, I hilariously went into it thinking I was going to get my, my thoughts and points validated. And then I got the chin check I needed, tremendously bad. But it was something that I knew that helped me and Josh grow even much more. 2021, it was muster 012 in Vegas. So I've been looking for a reason. I saw it pop up at the beginning of this year. I was like, yeah, we're definitely going to go to this. And I am unbelievably happy of going and in my eyes, the outcome of it was a very big thing just from my personal self. I was thinking of, like I said, I thought things were going to be proven, like I was going to be proven right in certain things. And like when, especially when it came to unfortunate, like with me and him, we are very similar people, but very polar opposite people at the same time. So it was very good for me to get the chin check I needed. So when it came down to it, what did you pull from the muster itself?
Same thing, honestly. Like you said, chin check I needed. I thought it was a life-changing experience, really, because those guys are really influential in the way they speak and the way they handle themselves, just because of what they've done in their lives. And it doesn't just teach you about how to become a good leader. It teaches you how to become a good person, which I think is the first and foremost better part. Best part, if you want to become a leader, you got to be a good person too.
They give out really awesome swag, and the canisters this year literally state ownership starts with you.
Yeah.
And I would say that's the one thing that I kind of forgot or I lost sight of a little bit leading into that. Before actually we get even further into this, can you explain what muster is and what Echelon Front is and what Jocko is before we get even further into this? Actually give some context to what we're talking about.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this or watching this and you don't know who Jocko Willink is, I highly suggest you look into him. It's all over the place now. Navy SEAL leader who has taken his leadership skills that he learned in the military and has created the company Echelon Front. He has multiple businesses, actually. He owns a jiu-jitsu gym in San Diego, Victory MMA with Dean Lister. He's got his supplement company, Jocko Fuel, and I believe he's a part owner of Origin Maine, which is a company in Maine that he partnered up with another black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I think they started out with gis, actually manufacturing it right here in the States. So he's got his hands in a lot of stuff right now, but his leadership style is amazing. I found him probably through the Joe Rogan podcast a long time ago.
Tim Ferriss, I thought.
I think he was probably on Tim Ferriss first, but I don't know if I saw that one first. But I've definitely seen it since. Been following him for years. Echelon Front has this
Leadership conference.
Yeah, leadership conference that you can go to that's called the Muster, which is what, 3 days?
Two full days.
And like
a meet and greet the first day.
Yeah.
Like
so
a 2-hour meet and
1,000
greet.
people out at this time?
Yeah.
Over 1,000. They didn't say exact
So-
number,
That
but
was
it was
that,
over 1,000.
well, including the muster crew, but like technically I think there was 1,000 leaders, so 1,000 spots sold, which I know in Vegas the 2 years prior, if I'm not mistaken, it was either 600 or 700.
That was that's who Jocko is, what Echelon Front is. But they teach you leadership, and they take the lessons they learned in leadership from the military. Which, having been in the military, when I came back to the business, I had a totally different outlook on leadership. Wasn't special forces, but the structure of the military is really conducive to teaching people how to be good leaders. Just the overall structure of how everything works is basically once you become an NCO or a leader, you're in charge of other people, and your mission, your job is actually to train them to do your job, and that kind of goes all the way up. Jocko gets way more in detail in it, gets way more into the whole how ownership works. In his book, Extreme Ownership, which I strongly recommend, the first chapter kind of says it all. He actually gives probably his biggest failure ever as a story of how he was able to take ownership in that moment and not put the blame on others. And by doing that, you empower people around you to also take ownership.
That was, again, that was my biggest drive, I would say. That was definitely the biggest drive for myself to go again. Like I said, with the experience growth that me and him had, because when we went, that was just right after my dad's stroke. Mm-hmm. So we were already technically, I guess, being groomed to start taking over.
You had to
and that was
step into that role, and
that was cord cut. Like, here you guys go. And I would say not even just us being groomed. In my eyes, you too. It's just I would say
in a different way. I would say
in a different way, but that was because at the time, in my eyes, I was a shit leader. And I've mentioned it before. I know I've had conversations. Me and you had a ton of great conversations this past week.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned it to Josh before too, that like my first little stint If my first little stint being a manager / lead installer, I thought how I could handle certain situations, it would work itself out instead of actually just stepping up in the situation, realizing that I'm the one who's failing here. I'm not getting my message across. Hey, I need to improve myself. And then after going to the first muster, I kind of got that from there. And then taking you to this one, it's been even more expanded because the past 2 years, we started off with, hey, you guys, we got to run the company.
Yeah.
We did what we could do, and I think with what we were kind of given at the moment with this circumstance situation, like, I wouldn't have been able to get through that, losing my mentor without having the team that I had around me. So having you, having Josh, having everybody else, that helped me get through it tremendously.
Definitely.
And then after like the first year, I realized, and then going to the muster, I realized that I was suffocating you too, because we've expanded from, we were like a 4-man operation when you originally entered the company.
Yeah. And there was for a while, it was just like 3 of us.
Me and you as the kind of main installers. And then we got to the point where we slowly started getting bigger and bigger. Now we're to the point where we're trying to really expand. And that's where I've had to open my eyes and actually like, all right, I need to start improving myself in these areas. And then also providing everyone who has to step into those roles, providing them with the tools that they need and trying to support my team as much as possible. Because like I said, I got what I knew I got growth-wise out of there. I was hoping that was one of the things I was hoping that I could help try to provide for you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it has 100% too.
Listening to this, it's kind of interesting because, I don't know, like I was just saying, coming back into the business, having gone to the military and experienced a whole nother form of leadership and growing up in the business, coming back to it, that, Dad was a micromanager.
Understatement?
Yeah, the ability to actually give people the power to take some ownership of something and be in charge of something is scary when you're the one in charge of everything. And that definitely was a restriction on our growth because you can't do it all. There's only so much time in the day. And if you have to look over everybody's shoulder and babysit and then that person doesn't have the ability to grow and replace your role. It's kind of what I was talking about that was really cool about the structure of the military. Like when I was in E5, I was a sergeant. I'm in charge of soldiers. I now know because I've had someone that was my sergeant. There were multiple different people at that point because you get moved to you have different leaders at different points.
Yeah.
But it's always, they're training you. If they're doing it correctly, their job is to teach you how to do their job. They're constantly questioning you about different regulations and, what's the PT manual and how are you going to be in charge of soldiers, and their entire job is to help you grow to where you can do their job for them as they're being taught by their leadership, who's in charge of them, how to do their job. And it just keeps filtering up. And if you don't allow people to take ownership and be in charge of some stuff and actually start releasing the reins and actually like, hey, this is your department, you're going to run it. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it, but these are going to be the standards. Let me know how you want to do it. That's way more empowering than, here, do this, and this is how you're going to do it. And then if it fails, this is a point Jocko makes, a 70% plan by somebody that you're leading or in charge of, that's still going to get the mission complete, but you think it's 70% good compared to your plan that ego thinks is 100%, is probably going to actually be better because that person's going to be bought in. Like if you're having to do something at the shop and I'm telling you like this is exactly how it has to be done and you don't fully agree with that, like what's the likelihood you're fully bought in and going to give it everything you've got? Like not specifically like that you wouldn't give it everything you've got, but most people, like if it's your idea, your plan, and this is how I want to do it, you're going to do everything you can to prove me wrong that this was the way to do it, and you're going to give it everything you've got to make that plan work. And that's huge.
Just
like
the ending goal, whatever it takes to get it done.
And and if it's your plan and not my plan, like how much more bought in are you to the idea of making this work? Not everyone's going to
agree with your plan either. So and how you get them to listen to you and listen to why it's a good thing for them to try to do this plan.
For sure. I actually was able to listen in on Instagram Live to some of the session you guys were at. And one of the things they were talking about was doing like after action reviews, doing briefings afterwards. This was something that was strong in the military. So now let's say there's something we need to get done at the shop and we say, Brendan, handle it however you need to get it done. This is the end state we need it to be in.
Yeah.
Then it happens and something goes wrong along the way, like, okay, cool. Let's talk about it. What were we trying to do?
Exactly.
What happened? What can we do to fix that in the future?
Yeah.
Now everybody's part of the solution, and there's no problem, right? Like,
Exactly.
and now we're moving forward and we fix something, and now next time that happens, there's not going to be an issue, right? Like,
Exactly.
we've already figured out a better way to do it.
Oh yeah, for me, those were the two biggest things I pulled from the muster this time. Was two areas I need to really improve on is the readback. So like when I'm trying to convey my intent or what needs to get done, make sure that I am actually I'm explaining myself to a point and actually get somebody to like, you know, hey, right, what did I not say like what did I just say, but like make sure they understood what I said, and get back to have them tell me like kind of all right, so like what are we going to get done here, and then also the debrief
Afterwards,
action.
yeah, that's what I was
After
thinking
action
too.
reviews
Like,
are so important. We
even
definitely
after
need
every
more of that.
day, like
Yeah.
do a little review of the day or something like that.
That was something that was so systematically built into the military. At the end of every day, before the flag would go off at the end of the day, because everybody gets information, and when that happens, every layer of leadership, before that happens, the company commander or the first sergeant and the platoon sergeants would have like a meeting, and they'd talk about what happened in training for the day, what's going on tomorrow, what's going on for the week.
Yeah.
And they would come down in formation. The platoon sergeants would talk to their section sergeants, let them know what's going on, what happened today. Like, this is happening every single day, no matter what. Then they would come to their squad leaders and let the squad leaders know. Then the squad leaders would take their 3 or 4 soldiers. Everybody would pull out a notebook and say, okay, this is what's happening tomorrow. This is where everybody needs to be. And then then the flag goes off and the day's over. But everybody by the end of the day knows exactly what's happening tomorrow, what happened today, and what we can fix. And after like a real world mission, then it's a full like sit down and go over every little detail of that mission. But just day to day, even if there's not like some special mission going on, like having that end of day chat and say, hey, we kind of do it right now with text messages. I know with architectural, at the end of the day, sometimes we're not all together. So at the end of the day, there'll be at least a group text that's like, all right, this is when we're coming in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Look at Tint Wiz, this is what we have to do. But like having those reviews daily it was just so ingrained and built into the military culture. You didn't have a choice but to not know what's happening tomorrow and where you need to be. So there's no excuse.
And how that relates to the business world is same thing.
Yeah. No, I think I'm gonna adopt that and actually start a text message with you too about that.
Right.
Go over
it every day.
You guys, like you've already got that built in where you separate from your guys when we have multiple jobs.
Well, it was really nice and easy and convenient in the Army because you didn't have to think about it. It was just going to happen every day no matter what.
Well,
so we have to build that to be the thing. We're kind of doing it in architectural.
Culture.
I'll have my moments where it's like 7 o'clock at night and I realize like, oh, I didn't let everybody know what's going on tomorrow yet because I get off and go straight to the kids' sports or whatever. But like it needs to be something that happens every day no matter what.
No, absolutely. But at the same time, as we slowly start to adapt more and more into our daily routines, like the monthly reviews. I know we were a little behind this past month, but we did 2 months in a row. You know, and this upcoming month, I want to make sure that we kind of technically when we get back from our race, that's going to be like the first thing that week. I want that week knocked out. Like I'm going to knock you guys out, so you guys can knock your guys out, so we can start getting on a game plan, because that just lets everybody know that you actually care about how they're doing. You know, where talking about how if it's an individual crushed it that month or it's something they did really well, let them know, boost them up. And then also like, hey, this is an area that we need kind of work on, and then you figure out maybe where it went wrong. Hey, that's technically when it comes down to it, it's on me to make sure that I am having the conversations with you guys and asking you guys earnest questions, to where if I feel like there's something going awry or something's coming off the plan or whatever, instead of just thinking in my head, like, why aren't you just doing your job?
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not doing my job. Like, I'm not making sure that I'm actually supporting you guys and actually like asking the questions that dig into, like, hey, am I getting the why by?
Yeah.
Like, am I explaining to you why this is so important for just the overall company itself and every single division?
And that was the biggest thing I picked up from this conference too, is just explaining why things need to happen, because I was never like that before. And it taught me how to detach from my emotions too, big time. Like, it's one of the biggest things I think I've learned from this, because I was never good at that. I'd always let my emotions get the best of me. And
I don't think anyone's necessarily good at that. I think that's something that you slowly learn.
you just learn it. Yeah, that's what they would say too. You have to. It's not something you learn overnight.
There's a reason why so many people are coming to these courses, because these are universal problems that everybody has, right?
Exactly.
I mean, even though I've been and he's been, like, I'm sure I could go back to one of these.
Honestly,
tomorrow
I
and
would go back
learn a ton.
every time if I could.
That's something I definitely
It's
want.
really fun. Just learn everything.
Well, like I told you, like that was the one question that my mom had for me. Like, why are you going back again? You've already went to it once. I'm like, well, it's something that can always be. You can always grow and get better at something. And going to it again, I recognize certain things I didn't recognize the first time around, because it was my first, dip into the pool of having that kind of exposure to that many, in my eyes, brilliant leaders talk, and then like just also seeing how their company operates. That was one thing that kind of blew my mind. And
How big they got.
Well, it's just not even to say how big they got. I mean, you definitely saw the growth in their company.
Yeah.
But how they operate.
Oh yeah.
Seamlessly.
Like, it's not non-effort for them to operate together.
And
that's how it should be.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that.
No one's arguing or anything like that,
And then like the fact that even in that Q&A, they were talking about how like one of the slides were off during the first day, and a question got brought up. I forgot who asked the question. But Jamie Cochran, the chief operating officer, she had already said, like, nope, we already noticed that. They already had an internal memo going of, hey, this is the SOP. Like, they already developed an SOP, like, on the spot to make sure next time that's part of the checklist, and now it won't happen again.
Yeah.
And that's just that now it's just part of their system. And I would say that's where we're at right now in a company, that we have SOPs. We have very rough SOPs in each division, and we're slowly building them out. And as problems come at us, we're adding them in there.
Yep.
And trying to, I'd say, I guess perfect, but there really is no perfection, because it's always going to be growing and changing, because you're always going to have different situations.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question too. You already just jumped on to begin with. What were like kind of the two of the biggest things you pulled from this? But so like the why and the detach. Was there anything else that you would say that you pulled from it?
Like I said before, probably the biggest thing was just being a better person. Like, it was amazing how many people were there that it said it changed their marriage, just because they would come home and not, they dwell on work all day. And it became a habit of them to just be complacent in their emotions and not want to deal with anything really. But it taught them how to really focus on owning your problems and stepping up to, addressing them with your partner too.
Yeah.
Like, how it saved that many people's marriages is insane.
Oh yeah, no, it comes down to, I guess it's always the big issue that me and him have, and whenever we let our communication
in relationships too, like.
Your
relationships with everybody matters.
You
have to have a good relationship with everybody.
People are everything. It's crazy. One of the earlier episodes we recorded, I think it might have been actually within the show, we were talking about things that have like improved to allow us to grow over the last couple of years. We were talking about like technology and stuff, but I really feel like us taking more of a grasp and like an interest in this.
Yeah.
The success we've had in hiring and training people, I don't think we would have if we were still operating and not leading the way we were. Like, we're still not perfect at it, and we need to improve and get better at it. But like, being a good leader and taking care of people and making sure they know that you're actually there for them and you got their back, is everything. So if you're out there and you've tried hiring somebody or multiple times and it's never working out, like, there's one common denominator there, and most people don't want to admit it because of their ego. Like, maybe you need to change how you're operating and handling people and leading people and treating people, because ultimately, like, if you don't take ownership for it, then are you saying you have no control over hiring and training people, and it's just never going to work? And that's why I feel like a lot of people in this industry just like are like, screw it, I'm not training anybody ever again, because they're just going to leave and go to. No, it's possible to do, but you need to actually lead people and take care of them.
Exactly.
And make them the priority. That's the part of leadership that Jocko puts into such great terms and words. by taking ownership and empowering people and actually really caring, you can actually train them to do what you do that allows you to go to that next level and do the other things that need to be done.
And same for them too.
Yep.
So they can go up to that next
and
level.
then they start training the people that come in below them, which I think we've got a really cool culture of that going at the shop right now, not like to toot our own horn. But I see it happening all the time with the architectural guys, and whenever I am in the shop, I see it with the auto guys. Like the newest guy on the totem pole that just came in and is like just starting to learn is not just being taught by us, but they're being taught by the person that's only been doing it for a year or 2 years, and they're genuinely trying to help each other. And they're genuinely trying to teach them how to do their job, because the more people that come in and the more installers we have, now they can get to the point where they could be a lead installer and actually have people underneath them. Or, you know, there's the path of where you're trying to go to, and the person above you is actually trying to build you up to be able to do that. Yeah. So it's not like I'm just going to be stuck here, a prepper for the rest of my life. Like everybody's actually trying to teach me how to.
Yeah. Don't want them to feel complacent, because that's when problems arise, I feel like.
Well, I think that's definitely the areas that we were, at least for myself, definitely was extremely lacking. I'd say 5-6 years ago when we were trying, we did bring in a couple younger guys.
Yeah.
And I think they got left in a spot where it was kind of pretty much like, well, we've already told you once. Like, you should just know by now.
Yeah.
Instead of like having that culture of everyone helping each other. And I think we've kind of uprooted all of how that was all kind of like planted into the company. I think we've slowly uprooted that over the past couple of years and opened either, you know, our eyes to it, and then also opened everyone underneath our eyes to it, to the fact of like, hey, this person's here to, like, yes, you're going to help them and train them, but at the same time do realize while they're helping you train them to prep the window to the quality you know it needs to be for an install, guess what? Now you have a full trained prepper for a certain amount of time before they kind of, you know, up themselves into the next level to where they start installing, to where you get to walk up to a window and just put the film on there.
Yeah.
And the better teacher you are, the better you show them the way of, hey, this is the stand, this is what I need to have a perfect install, or as close to perfect as possible. Yeah, as close as perfect as possible. That, like, now I can walk up to the window and just stick it. And then when it gets to that point, it's like, okay, now you've checked off prepping. Now we can show you how to put the film on. And it's like, it's the most important part is that prepping part. And I get to that realization of thinking, like, you know, it's like, oh, they're just having me do all the grunt work. No, we're having you do the most important thing. And when it gets to the point where an installer can sit there and just put the film on, you're now at the level where you can start learning how to put the film on, and you've perfected as much as possible that prepping stage. I mean, I think
which is the most important. Yeah,
and I think that's what got me and Josh to the point of where we were at for installing, is that, like, we were our dad's prepper for a good amount of time because we were too young to install in someone's house. Like,
that's how I was when I first started.
Yeah, and it's like,
your dad was tinting windows back then all the time. Oh God! Everywhere I went, I was his little prepper.
Right when I first started. About that, it kind of goes back to the why thing, right? Like, as long as you let that person know why this is where you start.
That dad was really good at that. Explaining that why he was really good at. Like, every other thing, yes, super micromanager when it came to a lot of stuff. But when it came to teaching someone how to install, he hammered home.
The prepping was
I actually had an incident recently in architectural where we had, like, a little miscommunication on the way certain notes were being put into TintWiz for jobs. And by us finally, like, having a little bit of a conversation, we realized we were just looking at the software in a different way. Yeah. Like, you were looking at one spot and we weren't looking at that spot at all, because the way we're operating and using the software, we just never actually clicked on that section.
Oh, yeah.
So actually going and training my guys on it and, like, explaining, like, hey, actually we need to click on here and look at here, and this is why, because it's in one sheet you can see everything, and, like, this is why we need to click on this every time and look at this, and then there'll be this won't ever happen again.
Yep.
Right.
And it was like, oh, okay, cool. The other thing actually that was crazy was putting the rolls in. So attaching the roll of film to the job in TintWiz, so you can actually, inside the project, whatever films are supposed to go on that job, you can literally in one click click add roll, and it's going to give you whatever rolls you have in inventory that are available. You can look at the roll number on the roll you just grabbed that you're going to use, or multiple rolls, and in one click add it to the job, and now it's on the job. For the longest time, we weren't doing that little step because it's like, why would we do that?
It's just an extra step.
Well, when they're doing the paperwork in the office, they need to know the exact roll number you used and not just grab a random one out of inventory, because the manufacturers now are using digital warranties. And we've got real roll numbers, and if we're just randomly throwing a random roll number on a warranty for a job rather than specifically the actual one we used, there could be a scenario where you've put a roll number for a roll of film on 4 or 5 jobs that's more square footage than that roll even has on it.
Yeah.
Now the manufacturers are going to decline that because they can see that you used this roll number for more square footage than was even on this roll. I didn't know that was even a thing now that it's digital. When we talked about it, I said, oh, and getting everybody to start make that part of their regular SOPs and get it done every day was kind of like, well, why are we all of a sudden doing this? And as soon as I explained why, like, hey, if we don't attach these roles to these jobs and actually see which specific role was used on that job, if there's a warranty claim in the future, we might not get paid for that warranty. And as soon as I said that, everybody was like, oh, okay. And now it happens every single time, no problem. Just knowing the why and just like not just doing something because you think it's just an extra step of something you have to do. There's a purpose behind it. And just letting them know that was enough to be like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh no, yeah, that's the same thing I could say for our auto department.
Yeah,
like was explaining before and after pictures.
Yeah, and once I explained that why we do that to them, they actually started to get it and started seeing the importance to it. Because I said, if you guys didn't take pictures and the customer comes back and sees something on their car that they didn't see before, how are we gonna know if we did it or not?
Yep. And then when it comes down to it, like I'm not going to sit there and argue with my customer.
Yeah.
We just
exactly.
Yeah, we're going to take care of them and just fix whatever is wrong. But how many times have we pulled those pictures up and like, here's your car parked out front before we even pulled it in.
It saved us
and
a few times.
There's that scratch that you're pointing out. I can see it right here in this picture. And all of a sudden it goes from like combative and us trying to have to like maybe take care of some paint. It's like, oh, okay, well, dang, I guess I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And they're totally cool.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was the biggest reason why I was hammering that home is if you give me something to go to bat with, like I don't ever think anyone in either side of the company, if something gets damaged and I ask them straight up or I ask you guys straight up, did we do it? And I get a no, I believe you guys 100%.
Yeah.
But I can't go to my customer or go to our customer and say, hey, that was already there. And then they're going to look at, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then there are more than a handful of times of cars that like that customers that we repeat customers that like, no, that definitely wasn't there, and just able to zoom in on the photo and go, yeah, I see it right there. And they're like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I'm like, don't worry about it. Like it happens. Like when you're getting something done in either your house or on your car, especially if it's something's being installed in that area, that's an area you've never looked in. It's not natural for you to look in there. So it's like I'm not gonna blame you for like I don't think you're trying to get anything from us, and nor do I think that at any time that our customers is trying to get something from us. When it comes down to it, it just it's one of those circumstances that you cover. Is we have had incidences happen in the past. We have developed SOPs to try to prevent that from happening because as we expand, it's going to be inevitable that it happens.
Oh yeah.
That we're going to get the more customers we bring into the company, there's more of a chance, more percentage that something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, some always will go wrong. Like you said, it's inevitable.
Oh,
this is how you handle those SOPs, is how to prevent, it from becoming a bigger thing than it should be.
Yeah, and just being able to cover yourself when it comes down to it. And especially when you have the means. Like back 15 years ago, it's not even long enough. I guess, but probably with programs, being able to capture photos and document it in a way to where it's seamless in the company.
Well, that's what's crazy is it's been available for us to do for a long time, but nobody really thought of how important it was to do. And then just the fact that it's like a built-in feature in TintWiz, and then Eric let us know, like, hey, use that feature for that reason. And even then, it was like we didn't really do it. And then we started doing it and realized how important it was.
Oh, I've saved thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Thousands. And then again, it's just one of those things where it's a small little thing where a customer points something out, and it's just like, no, that got noticed. And then also it reaffirms the customer that like we're being that detailed.
Yeah, reassures them.
It makes it even that much of a bigger, I guess, win for us as a company, because now the customer's going like, wow, you guys really go to town on making sure that if there is anything wrong, because if we do catch something in the auto side, we call the customer. Hey, just want to let you know, we saw this, there's something on your door panel, there's a scratch in your glass. That's one thing that people will be are usually very shocked by when they buy a brand new vehicle. Just because you buy a brand new vehicle does not mean that it's absolutely perfect. Majority of the time, yes, it is. But I mean, how many times have you seen a car where we've brought it in brand new, 5-6 miles on it, and it's got a scratch on the glass?
Oh yeah, it's quite a few times actually.
The usual reply is, well, the manufacturer does 100 and something point inspection. It's like, yes, they do. But at the same time, like, how big is your vehicle? And
a lot of times they're not inspecting the glass either, I feel like.
Well, we give them a reason to look at it because they're getting work done on the glass, right? So that's why we've got to be crucial and look at it. Same thing happens with houses, and actually, in the last couple of years, the quality of glass on new homes has been bad. So we go out of our way to make sure we inspect the glass, and if we see a nick in the glass, or even on the paint seal around the window, we're taking a picture. We're letting the customer know. And what's wild about it is like the second and third order consequences of that when you really think about it. Like, maybe the customer would have never seen it, and maybe like 9 out of 10 people would never see it. They'd never see that little mark on the paint. They'd never see that little scratch in the glass, and you just do your job and go on. But you're missing an opportunity right there to let that customer know how thorough we are being, right? Even those 9 out of 10 that wouldn't see it and might not be the one who's going to be a problem and going to see it and blame you for it, they see the fact that I'm taking my time to go, hey, look, this new window right here has this scratch in it. It's really light, and the film might make it disappear, but right now, while you have a brand new window in your brand new home and I haven't put anything on it yet, if you want to contact the builder and get that window replaced, we can come back and do this one window. That way you don't have to deal with, warranty claims and all that.
Yeah.
Like if that's something you want to fix, like we can put a note in the system. You contact us when the builder replaces the window, and then we'll come. And we've done that 50 times this last year.
Oh, my
at least. Like
my house that I bought in 2018. The first thing, well, it sucked for them, unfortunately. My eyes get drawn to glass when I walk into any, which I'm pretty sure happens to you too.
Oh, yeah,
you guys walk by cars. You're inspecting a tint job like you're a judge in a competition.
Exactly.
Just because it's
anytime I see tint anywhere in public,
I'm
checking it out.
Even on a building, like we walk through the airport all the time, and we looking at the tint half the time.
First thing we saw when we got out the airplane in Dallas, they have this cool, and it looks like, I'm pretty sure it's exterior transparent film that's printed on, and it's this huge mural.
Yeah, it's like frost.
It looked
Printed
awesome.
Frost.
First thing I did was I walked over and I started looking at the window. I'm like, what is that? And it's just like,
was that Love Field?
Oh yeah.
That airport's cool.
Yeah, that was cool. But it's like, at my house, the first thing I did when I walked in, when I was doing my walkthrough, is walk in. As I'm walking through the front door, I'm looking to the right, huge scratch on the exterior of one of my panes. I'm like, that's got to go. And then I walk in and like getting about, because usually they'll try to push you. They'll try to say, well, if you can't see it from 10 or 12 feet away, it's a non-issue. It's just kind of one of those things, which nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. But I got maybe 15 feet away, maybe even further away from my 3 biggest windows I have in my house. I have a 3-piece slider, and you could tell the outside was horribly scratched because they had overspray from the stucco, and they like wiped it. They tried scraping it, and like if you do not take that off a certain way, even if we do it, it's going to scratch the window
every time. It's actually something stuck to it like that. If you drag something,
scratch the living hell out of the window.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
And I was like, yeah, that's got to go. And also because I knew that I was putting film on my windows, and that's one thing that builders will sit there and say, and so will if you get your windows replaced and you get new glass put in, is they will try to scare customers. Do not tint your windows. Don't do it. Void your
warranties.
Yeah, and it's absolutely. I've got no problem telling any one of our customers, yes, it voids your warranty. But the great thing is we have 2 amazing manufacturers that we install with, 3M and SolarGuard, and Panorama being part of SolarGuard, that they put the warranty back on your windows. Yeah. They understand that there is always a possibility that film can break your window if you install the wrong film. If you install the proper film on your window, you don't have to worry about it because you are usually putting a meter on the window to see where your coating is and see what type of glass it is.
Yeah.
And then you put the appropriate product on there, and it's not going to break the window. The only way it breaks that window is if that window is already defected. It has a chip on the edge that we can't see. It has a weak seal for manufacturing. I would say most people would agree when you're mass producing a product, there is going to be a bad piece. That shouldn't scare you away from putting a product on your window to improve your situation, heat rejection, privacy, whatever, safety, wherever it need be. But also understand that our manufacturers, and let alone us as a company, we have your back, and if something happens to your window, it gets taken care of.
Exactly.
And we have maybe, I think last year was probably the most breakage we've ever had in a year. And I think it was maybe
Sounded like it.
5 windows maybe.
Seemed like there was a
Yeah,
lot.
out of almost 100,000 square feet of film installed.
So it's just one of those things. Yes, it can happen, but it's just, that's why our manufacturer's there, is there to back it. And that's why we also inspect the glass to make sure we're putting on the appropriate film, so it doesn't do anything to your windows.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, even when it comes down to auto, I can relate this straight to auto. When it comes to windshields, when you have a rock chip in your windshield,
Oh yeah.
if you do not address that, or at least point that out, if it hasn't been there for a long time and it's brand new, there's a chance that rock chip could spread when you put film on.
Yeah, I feel like there's always a chance if it's there. That's why I always bring the customer back, show it to them, let them know it's there and what can happen, and then if they agree to do it, then we'll do it.
Yep. And it's just one of those things. If it's been there for more than 6 months, I think almost the majority of glass guys I've ever talked to, they're like, if it's been there for 6 months, it's
Yeah, I've had one on mine, and I tinted my windshield anyway. Nothing happened to it.
yeah, but when you're spending that kind of money to tint your windshield, I'm like,
Oh no.
hey, fix that first, and then let's tint it.
That's why I always
you don't
let
have to
them know
replace the
that,
windshield
too.
and the film.
Yeah, because some people don't even see their rock chips. They have no clue it's even there.
It comes down to the same thing. That's the main reason why we inspect our vehicles and inspect them to begin with. You want to try to find the things that obviously that will go out of sight, out of mind. Rock chip is 100% one of them. A slight scratch or ding or dent somewhere is the exact same thing. You know, I would like to think that I have I know where I have damage or slight damage on my personal vehicles in certain areas.
Yeah.
Where I've noticed some things where I'll talk to Brittany and I'm like, was that there? And she's like, yeah, it's been there. I'm like, oh, I just noticed it for the first time. And it's just one of those things. You're not gonna.
I just noticed something on my house. I've been in my house for 2 years now, and I just noticed some paint work on one of the door trims that's like really bad. And I never noticed it. I bought the house, moved in, lived there for 2 years, and I just noticed it the other day.
Yeah.
So it's like,
There's small things I notice with my house all the time.
yeah. So it's like now all of a sudden you're working on an area of that home, and it's something they've never looked at really. So it's like, yeah, definitely taking the pictures, putting them in there, addressing it is huge. If you're not doing that and you're listening or watching to this, do that. It'll save you a lot of headache.
Oh,
It's one thing I've instilled into my auto guys is to look at that, be detailed before you even start the job on what could be wrong with the glass. Anything. They always tell me about the rock chips too. So they've gotten a lot better at that.
Oh yeah, and with that'll come with experience and time with them. I know that last year was a year that we took 3, in which they are still young, but at the same time, highly driven individuals, and I say threw them in the fire, but like put them in a position that we didn't need to be put in when we were younger. I mean, I guess we kind of were to a point, but not at the high pace of what we have them at. Like it was just me and you in the back of the shop, and we did maybe. Well, we still probably did about 8-10 cars a day, or at least we could if we got that many vehicles that day. Weren't doing as many windshields.
Yeah, the windshields is the biggest thing. We weren't doing half as what we do now.
And the cars weren't as temperamental. Cars, I feel are extremely temperamental now. I think glass is softer than it's ever been.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true because
I see more damage to glass now than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, especially coming into our store, like already pre-damaged glass, where it's just like, you got a big old scratch right here.
Yeah.
Which that's either it was on there to begin with, or when the vehicle was being stripped to be put out on the showroom floor or put out on the lot to sell, it just was something that accidentally got done. And, it kind of, is what it is. And within electronics, the Dodge
under the Dodge. Remember when we had that Dodge switch issue?
Yep.
That was
That-
electronics are big iffy now. We have to make sure everything's sealed,
Cover it all.
covered.
Well, it's we pretty much have developed pretty standard SOPs for it.
Yeah,
Like what
from those,
if anything,
yeah.
I'll let you know them better than I do. Like when a car comes in windshield wise, what happens from start to finish?
The first thing they do is obviously wipe off the outside, but they put a rope in the bottom to seal the whole windshield, put an entire pad over the dash and the steering wheel and even the center console, because a lot of these center consoles now are really delicate and could scratch very easy, even if you put your finger on it, I feel like. So we have them cover that and everything. And even the seats, sometimes water drips down from the seats when you're spraying everywhere. So try to cover everything as much as possible, especially the windshields.
Man, I'd say a big help with that has been, the one cool thing in our industry is the invention of all the nifty tools.
Yeah, like when we started, we didn't have ropes.
Yeah.
We were stuffing paper towels down there if we needed to
Yeah,
cover anything, you know?
Well, and there's also a hope and a prayer too. Water control.
Yeah.
I don't think there was that much. Definitely was that much electronics in the front of the vehicles as there was or there is now. Like that's one thing. Like I love installing, but
Yeah,
at
me
the
too.
same time, like the steps that have to be taken. That's where it's like when we first started kind of bringing people on the train. The one thing I was telling guys, which I look back and wish I wouldn't have took this approach, but I think they more likely understand it now just because of the reps. It was, hey, I'm going to tell you do it this way, because we bring in new recruits that don't know nothing technically about their industry. Do it like this. And then I would tell them, do what I'm telling you, don't do what I'm doing. And the main reason why I would say that, and I know it sounds
It's because you would cheat.
It's like the
no,
worst
it's not
advice ever.
necessarily. No, it's not necessarily cheat. I looked at it in a way that I have at the time probably about 15 plus years of experience. So I understand how I have to manage my water. That was one thing because we didn't have those tools.
We had to manage our water.
I had to manage the water in a certain way to where I never had an issue, never had a problem. So I just took it upon myself to where like, this is the way I kind of do it. Like you guys can get there eventually. Now I look at it like that was definitely, for lack of a better term, ass backwards.
Yeah.
And because I was instilling in them like, hey, I'm going to break all the rules over here. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
But do like this over here. And especially because like the industry's changed so much. And it was bringing guys in where we were starting off with, we're getting them into the beginning part, I guess, of our apprentice program that we've kind of developed in both divisions is I need you to prep. And then we had so many cars coming in like, I'm going to have to skip a couple things here. Like, and I've trained myself to the point where I know what things I can skip to where I'm not damaging the customer's vehicle and I'm not downgrading my quality. Because, I'd say that's the biggest thing that we've always tried to drive home and we're always trying to perfect as much as possible is quality is king.
Yeah.
That's what keeps people coming back.
Come back. If something's clean and they don't see anything, that's what makes customers happy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's what spreads the word. And like, that gets them talking, gets them to bring their friend in and stuff. And now it's more likely, now people see, like if our doors open, they see us do all those steps of, inspecting the vehicle, looking for things. If we find something, they're like, automatically, we've already put the customer at ease. That, hey, this is how detail-oriented we are. This is how we approach a vehicle to where we are going to inspect your vehicle and make sure, that the surface is good to go, make sure there's nothing wrong anywhere else. If we do see something, we're going to let you know. And then we put out the quality work, and that just reinsures the customer to say, hey, I'm going to go tell my buddy and tell my other friend, come here, or leave a review. Like, since nice jobs implementing that program, like our reviews, we're at, 1,500 plus, almost 1,600 now?
Just on Google, and then there's hundreds on Facebook also.
It's one of those things where you just let the work speak for itself.
Exactly. Referrals are everything too.
That was another
When
huge...
you make one customer happy, it's going to make, like you said, their neighbors happy, all 5 of their friends happy, or make their friends want to come to us.
Oh, absolutely. I just had an interaction with a customer the other day. He had an older truck, that Ford, that blue Ford.
Yeah.
He came in, showed me a picture. He was the original owner. It was a 1976 F250.
Yeah, original owner, yeah.
Gorgeous.
It was a beautiful truck.
He had put this custom-made, pretty much blocker in his back window that had a small oval in the middle, single cab truck to where he could see out of it, but behind his back, it was completely covered, so he didn't have any sun hitting him. He had damaged his tint. He had went to a couple different shops and said, I'll take out the thing that's in the way. I just need this window stripped and tinted. I gave him a price, and then after I gave him the price, he was just like, thank you. I was like, there's no reason. And he's like, we meet him start talking. I was like, there's no reason for me to give you a price to make you go away. Because that's why, unfortunately, what will happen sometimes. Because it's exactly how I felt in the past 2 shops I went into. One shop said, no, won't do it. Literally sent him out the door. The other shop said, yeah, it's going to be like, I think it was $250, something like that. I had originally quoted him 150, and then he had told me that he was a veteran. I don't think he even told me. I think I might have noticed something when I asked if he was a veteran. And I gave him a little bit more of a discount. And when it came down to just looking at the dude's photo, I could tell that he took care of his vehicle. So there was zero need in my eyes, and usually there's zero need to try to blow a customer up to get him out your door, because yes, that might be one difficult car at that time. Take care of them though, that just turned into 4 or 5 more customers.
Exactly.
Just like that.
Exactly.
And it's just, it's one of those things that I'd say my dad has definitely tried to drive into all of us, is that quality and referral. Like word of mouth is everything. When things go down, when things are hurting, like I remember 2008 when the economy tanked out, like because of our imprint and our word of mouth, that helped keep us afloat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. I mean, you think about it, like, okay, you're running Google ads or whatever, but if nobody's searching, like, you got nothing, right? Or your ad spend is only going to get you so much of a return. Referrals, this is an Alex Hermosi thing. I never thought about this way. Referrals are exponential, 1 tells 2, 2 tell 4, like, that just keeps building. So if you do such a good job and have such high quality that enough percentage of your customers are constantly giving you a referral, that can grow exponentially.
Oh, yeah.
You can't spend ad spend in that way. It doesn't happen. The more you spend, the less effective that ad becomes.
Yeah.
Over time.
Exactly.
But the higher your quality is and the more referrals you get, Okay. I think last time I looked at tint was, it was maybe a month ago. I think over half of our work was either referrals or repeat customers.
And that's one thing too. I remember when we originally started tagging that and putting referrals on there, it's like, is that like, or a walk-in or something like that? Those are true 100%. Like, cause I've vetted out a couple of those where I've taken the customer and they're like, oh no, my buddy told me about you. Yeah. And it's like, we didn't have to spend anything on that.
Yeah. Well, what's really cool about that when you start thinking about it marketing wise is now that kind of actually gives you the ability to, if you are running ads, the ability to realize that, okay, if I'm spending 10 up, maybe even as high as 20% to gain a new customer, which would be really high, what percentage of our customers then become customers that refer more customers, and what's their lifetime value? And it's like, oh, okay, I'm actually really cool with spending that kind of money to get a new customer, because I know the probability that we're going to provide such good service that they're not just going to get one car done.
Yeah.
They're probably going to get another car done, or they're going to refer someone else, or then we're going to do their home. Like, so the little bit of money you are spending on ads to get new customers, on the back end is going to spawn into a bunch of more work that you're not actually spending anything on.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, absolutely. The neighborhood I think you're going to later today, we've done about 5 or 6 homes in it. Started off with one guy.
Well, that's just like in the last month or two, we've probably done 15 homes in that neighborhood. We just end up back in there in different little spurts.
Different spots.
Actually, how we got back into that neighborhood was a house we did 2 years prior.
Yeah.
He had mentioned it to one of the neighbors that he got scaredy phone. He used us, and then we got us in the door. At least we had to compete against, I think, like 1 or 2 other companies. But after...
There's been like a rash of burglaries there recently, so it sparked the conversation for it again. Yep. And he mentioned it again to his neighbors that he had already told about it, and then they contacted us. Yeah. They actually had other bids also, but the fact that their neighbor was referring us, then we end up getting the next house, and now 2 neighbors are referring us to one neighbor who's highly involved in the HOA and knows everybody in the whole neighborhood.
And that's the person
and then he goes and gets 4 more people. Like,
that's the hustler in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it's all about how you care for your customers too. I feel like if somebody comes back for a redo and you don't want to do it, just doesn't look good on your company at all.
It's
Like we just had
short-term.
an Audi we redid a windshield on, and something happened in the shop where he was irritated. He even had to redo it, but he left it all week. And then he wanted to talk to somebody to look over his windshield and make sure he didn't have to come back. And I talked to him and talked him into PPF. And that's just how you take care of customers.
No, absolutely. No, that's what
It just brings you,
like
makes them happy, and like you said, refers people, and then makes them want to do more for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, like having photos of someone's car to where if there is something you can point out to them, then that highlights, hey, that's how detailed we are. And then yes, none of us are perfect.
Yeah, no one's
And I don't ever expect any one of my guys to ever be perfect. I expect everyone to strive for perfection.
Yeah.
I don't ever think it's going to happen because I can't do it myself. So I never expect that from anybody. So when a mistake does happen or something does slip out and it unfortunately gets caught by a customer, it's instantly we bend over backwards. It's like, hey, we got to get this taken care of. We are so sorry you had to come back. A lot of times if it's like the fact that like you mentioned him paint protection, I probably reach out later to him today and just let him know like, hey, I'm gonna give him a little something off just for the fact of having to bring this car back to us. Just take care of him because
exactly.
I feel bad anytime we either have to go out to someone's house or someone has to go bring a car back because now they're taking extra time out of their day.
Yeah.
Yes, it might be costing us product and labor, but it never should have technically made it to them to begin with. But it's one of those things where some things are going to happen. It's the willingness to stand behind your work and like, no, I'm not going to sit there and argue with a customer.
Exactly.
And tell them like, well, that was there to begin with. I don't have time for this. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And like, let me just burn this bridge real quick. Like, there's zero need for it. Yeah, it might cost some labor and material at that moment to get something taken care of. And beyond that customer, if it's any other customer, even if it's a customer you feel like they're trying to take advantage of a situation, when it really comes down to it, is it really worth sitting there fighting with somebody over something very stupid?
Exactly.
Or just take care of it.
Just take care of it.
Make them happy.
Yeah.
Because guess what? They're gonna go talk to their friends now. And a lot of the times, if it's someone who like, if it is a customer that's particular, like I consider myself a very particular customer. Like when it came to like buying my home and stuff, I almost guarantee that the company I was buying from or the guys I was working with probably hated me. Because I mean, I try to be within reason of certain things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also let them know to begin with, in which we do have customers that will say it to begin with, which I do appreciate. It's like, hey, I'm really picky. And to which I usually back that up with, we are, as a company, very picky, and we all hold ourselves to that certain standard.
Extremely accountable for.
Yeah.
Taking extreme ownership.
Well,
Like, honestly,
shit.
like this whole conversation, we're just having kind of ties right back into the
Yeah,
ownership thing.
exactly.
Like if there's a problem with someone's stuff, we're going to take ownership and we're going to deal with it.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like it's funny that we've been able to do it on the customer facing side, but it's harder to do it internally, right?
Well, 'cause
Yeah,
we-
exactly.
Well, when you're doing it internally, it forces yourself to challenge your own ego.
Yeah.
And challenge yourself.
And that's what they go over too, is your ego is the biggest problem with you.
Oh, that's, like I said, that was the
It's
biggest.
the biggest problem with everybody.
That's
but
the
it's
biggest-
how you control your ego.
Oh, absolutely. That was the biggest check I had this weekend was
Yeah.
putting my own personal ego in check.
Mine too.
Like when I stated earlier, like me and him have been kind of going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
And we go through phases. I think that's
It's brotherly love.
Yeah, I think that just comes with working with your family.
Yeah.
We've gotten better at working on it. I've obviously worked with our dad majority of our life. He's had experiences outside of working with my dad. I think that's the one thing that I don't think I kind of wish that I had more experience than just doing this, because this is all I've ever known.
Yeah, exactly.
I started when I was 9, 10 years old picking up trash. And then every time when I was about 13 or 14, wanted to go get like a second job and like do something like 'cause my mom worked at grocery stores for a small part of time.
Oh yeah.
Like just like go be like a bag boy, do something, because I wanted to experience something different. My dad always shut it down and then would say, no, you can make more doing this. And then he would he would teach me something else, and then I would get a raise, I'd make more money. And so I never got out of it. So I never got to experience anything else but what happens in the company itself.
Yeah.
I never got to experience anything like that. He coming back from the military got to experience that kind of leadership.
Oh yeah.
That I probably biasly defended my dad in ways that I can look back now and say I most definitely did, not pointing out or recognizing kind of where his failure in leaderships were. And then also that bled into me. And him coming back into the picture and then nagging me to start listening to Rogan, and like added. Well, okay,
I don't know if I ever really pushed Rogan. I might have sent
All right.
clips of like
Does-
a Jocko interview
does
on
he
Rogan.
does he not get obsessed with some things and maybe not feel like he's nagging, but feel like driving a certain subject really hard?
I definitely get
all the time.
obsessed with stuff for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah,
So
and he
I-
definitely pushes his why everyone else should do it because
I've gotten better on that though. I was definitely worse about that like 2015,
Like
16.
Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, but
I
I
would-
still think
I would say it's never out of a place of where you're trying to force something down someone's throat. It was in a place to where when you do grab a hold of something, you dive deep into it and you investigate it and you see the validity.
which I think
of
is
it.
awesome. I mean,
I you're my go-to when it comes to certain things that
knowledge is power.
that I don't need to, like, if you're like, if I have a question about something I know that you're already like neck deep in, you're just in it, I just ask you and I don't challenge. I'm not saying challenge what you're saying, but I trust what you're telling me because I know you've already put hours, probably hundreds of hours into researching, looking at the validity of it, and then like I trust what you're saying. I use that on numerous things, and that was probably after I got introduced to this book. It was this, and it started with, I think, Born to Run to begin with, because that's when you got me into ultra running. I was Born to Run, listened to that book, that kind of changed my perspective on things, and then I dove into Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, and that was when I finally started watching Rogan, or not watching, listening to Rogan. I listened to Goggins, listened to his book, and then I grabbed a hold of it. I started listening to Jocko's podcast, and after Jocko's first podcast, it was hook, line, sinker.
yeah.
Got the books, listened to all 3 books within like a 2-week time period, and then I thought I grasped the concept, but didn't really understand it, and then just had to keep consuming more content. Listened to all the podcasts with Jocko and Leif, and like in here, because Leif has got, it's the same message, but how they talk about it is you can draw so much more from it to how their different perspectives are. And then JP Donnell, Dave Burke, Andrew Paul, all those guys.
Yeah.
Like it opened my eyes to leadership in general and what can be or what you can do with a team if you actually truly empower the team itself.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know, I'm constantly on the drive to just learn more because Brendan just said it, like it's cliche, but knowledge is power, right? The more you know, and then the more you actually take and use that to change behaviors and implement it, which is a thing that I still struggle with. Definitely don't think I've got it like figured out. Knowing it's only half the battle, then you got to actually implement it, right? Born to Run, I think, was and us going into the 100-mile this week, which we should probably talk about a little bit. That, I think, for me was like the starting point. And then it's something I mentioned before, like me preaching, like this is the thing you need to look at, or sending videos or whatever is only going to go so far. Most of the time, it's just like one in one ear, out the other. But I feel like me actually getting my life in order and getting healthy and starting to run all the time. And then like, it wasn't just read this book. It was like, oh crap,
taking
Josh
action.
just lost like 70 pounds and he's running all the time. And people are actually running these 100-mile races. And then you read the book and you hear the story and it's like, oh, okay. This is like just like a personal growth journey that you can, I don't know, it's actually tangible, it's concrete. Like I kind of explain how jujitsu's like right in your face. Like you, no matter how good you think you are at fighting, if you go in with no jujitsu experience and do a jujitsu gym right now, there's some little 120-pound kid who's been training for 6 years that's gonna make you feel helpless, right? And that's like right in your face. So I don't know, living by example and actually like trying to apply this stuff and actually trying to be a better leader, like that's ultimately the best way to teach other people how to do it. It's not even necessarily like, hey, read this book. It's like, be the good leader that you would want to have, and then people will mirror that back.
Well, like you stated to begin with, it's ownership starts with you.
Yeah.
It was when it comes down to it. And like you said, when I would say I definitely changed and started evolving is when I finally got my personal affairs in order. Like I used to weigh 240 pounds. Like I weighed probably upwards of at least 200 or more through my junior year in high school and above. And I never touched below 200 again up until my late 20s.
This would actually be a good spot to put up a picture of both of us from a couple of years ago. I've come across a couple of
Thanks,
them recently.
Facebook memories. I appreciate it.
I saw
Give
one
me
of
the
you
dare-
recently that I was
No.
like, whoa. I didn't realize he was that big. Me too. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you go back to my to 2015, if you look at the magazine window film mag cover of when I won for the first time, I mean, I had long hair, and actually I had a comment that had been said to me that actually stuck, and it was kind of like a driving factor. I ran into a fellow dealer that I had that we knew through the Panorama Network, and he said, "Oh, I thought we were your dad," and I was like,
Yeah, you used to get that a lot.
"Ooh,
when you,
okay." And it's like I've always gotten like you can always tell me, even right now too. You can tell that like you can tell that we're his son.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
absolutely.
But at that time, I knew what he was referencing, and I know he was kind of like poking fun. And it's like at the time, I just kind of ate it, and is what it is. And 2015 is where I kind of like where my turnaround kind of started. You know, I had some personal stuff going on in my life that I got called out on, and then I started changing that path or changing my life from that point forward. And it took several years past that, up until about 2018, where I had lost about 15 pounds or so. It was down to like 205, and then then Luca was born. And then like that right there, after listening to like 1 or 2 books, then Luca was born, I finally signed up for my first marathon.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was down the rabbit hole. Like I only swore, like I'm only running a marathon. That's all I want to do. I just want to get fast at marathons.
You get addicted to that.
And at that point, the idea of an
accomplishment,
ultra, I'd probably
Yeah.
annoyed you with by talking about
Oh,
it. So much.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And then did that first run, and then past that, I saw someone else doing an ultra at the time, and he was an older gentleman, probably pushing 70 plus, and he was going out for his 50K. I just finished my marathon, and I was smoked. I was done. I was in so much pain, and I was like, how in the hell is he going back out there?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Signed up for a 50K that day.
The thing about ultras that's like, I think the most powerful thing to me is everybody's limiting beliefs, like on whatever it is. I feel like the vast majority of people will never even run a marathon and have this idea that running a marathon is going to like kill you or like you can't do more than one in a month or you'll end up in the hospital, let alone being able to train yourself to the point to do 100 miles. And like if you actually go on the journey to try to do that, you realize that you're capable of a lot more than you think you are. And that where else am I limiting my beliefs? How big can I actually build this business? How many people can we actually train and have a career and have a life that they own a home and are able to go on the vacations they want to go on and start a family? And like, how many people could we actually affect? Like, if you look at when we get the whole team together to go to a Knights game or something now, and we've got a whole section of the stands where it's like 30, 40 people with family members, it's like this all started with dad and in a van, like in a struggle fest for years, and like that's turned into this many people now being affected by what our business is doing. Like, okay, what can we do with that? Like, how big can we make it? Like, are we still the average person thinking that like a 5K is this ultimate achievement and a marathon is something that most people aren't capable of doing? Or are we actually looking at the 100-miler vision of like what's possible?
Yeah.
And getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like I would say my comfort zone is with confrontation. Like either in handling a situation that there is two conflicting sides, maybe two people aren't seeing something the way they think they should be seeing, or something shouldn't be done a certain way, and they both disagree with how it's being done, or vice versa, whatever it is. Me actually going in and say, all right, guys, let's like taking that on right then and addressing it right then, not letting it fester. That was one of my biggest failures I've had. I feel like I've gotten better. It's one thing I definitely pushed for at the muster this time. The first time I went with you, I was extremely timid. I didn't really talk that much to many people, just because it's as much as people that know me, they think that I can talk to anyone. And my wife will say that I can, but when I'm in a big crowd like that, it is intimidating.
It's a
especially
little
when you're
nerve-wracking.
Oh, when you're especially around that many different types of leaders and stuff too. So it's like I made sure that when it came to the fire team, like the first day I volunteered to kind of speak first, because I wanted I'm not going to sit back and not talk. And then like the next day worked out great. We did the fire teams. The second day we were split into two different groups.
Yeah, I mean, so you were separated with
you had to do with your group. I had to do with my own group. So we didn't have the crutch of being next to each other. And not to say that like, you know, we're a crutch for each other, but it's a little easier to be a little more outspoken.
Yeah.
When you have someone like the one thing I did do, and I definitely want to mention right now is, and it took me until day 2 to do it. I was supposed to do it on day 1 and didn't, was go up and talk to Jocko. And like we did the meet and greet to begin with, and it's just there's so many people there to begin with that kind of get you in and out, take a photo, say hi.
Yeah, he's a busy man. He's talking to lots of people while he's there.
So on the second day, at the end of the day, after during the Get After It hour, we were doing that session that you were watching. Then I knew Jocko had gotten up, went outside, and I finally went out there. And I asked the lady, "Hey, can we record this?" She said, "Sure." And then went up to him, talked to him, explained to him like, "Hey, this is my second one. Thank you for help and improve my leadership to help grow our company. Like how many people we've brought on from 2 years ago to now. I think it's 4 or 5 people. The growth that we've had, and then the fact that we've even doing this podcast itself." So I had took my shot, and I asked him. I was like, my brother had told me that Nogi Worlds was going to be here.
Master Nogi World.
Whatever.
There's a lot.
Whatever. But I ended up asking him, which we did. We ended up getting on video. I asked him like, "Hey, if you're coming through Vegas, I would love to have you on the podcast." Like just to sit down and talk to him about just what we've been talking about today.
Exactly. Yeah, he'd love to talk about it, I'm sure.
It's just, and the funny part is, anytime I have you to talk to him or Leif, it comes down to I have a question, and then usually I get halfway through my question, and it's like, and I know the answer.
Yeah,
it's me.
It's you.
When it comes
it's
down to
always
it,
you.
I didn't get across my why. Did I actually take every step to actually help this person in every way possible instead of just try to jump to, like, one of the things was accountability that we talked about.
Yeah.
Is that accountability shouldn't be really used at all. You're failing that person as a leader if you're trying to use them with a threat of accountability.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I forget what the speaker's name was. It was the first. He wasn't at the first one. He was at this one, and it was a great session of him talking about accountability. And it's like, can you truthfully say, like, step back, like, did you do the one-on-one talk? Did you do the one-on-one training? Have you set personal time aside to explain to them, like, what the importance of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish? Like, and it's like, if you have to sit there and question your head, did I? And then obviously I didn't. And I'm failing. And it's like, I'm 100% failing.
Yeah. We had a lot of questions like that throughout the whole conference where we were like, oh, I have a question. And then we were like, and it just got answered.
You experienced that with the SOPs on, during that, like, you kept wondering if I was going to step up and say something, and every time I was going to, a question got answered in a way to where it was Jamie Cochran, Dave Burke, and JP Donnell that were on the panel. And they'd each answer the question how it came, and it's like by the time they got that answer again, I was like, and my question's answered. And never mind.
What was funny is I didn't know if you guys were actually in that live or not. When like an Instagram alert popped up, and they went live during one of the sessions that these guys were at. And I was on a job where I could open it up and listen to it. And there would be a question asked, and it would be about like SOPs or something like that. And I'd be like, oh, I hope they're in there. This is a good one. And the answer was really good. And like what was being talked about was like, oh, this is going to help us with issues we've been having on how we're doing our SOPs. And it's not necessarily like this is going to help Ricky understand my way or whatever. It was more like, oh, this is like cool. Now we both have heard the same advice on how to handle this situation, and I think we're both in agreement that it was really good advice. So now we can come together and let's make it happen this way rather than argue over which one of our way we're gonna do it. You know.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and probably start wrapping this up. I'm very, very happy we did this. I don't think this will be the last time we did it. I know this was technically, I think, your first time doing a podcast
ever. Yeah.
First podcast. Yeah. There we go.
Thanks, guys.
Oh no, dude, thanks for coming on. I
appreciate being here.
Thanks for coming to the muster.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you guys, because honestly, I wouldn't have went to it without you guys. So, and it's extreme life lesson I learned from that, big time. That's just on becoming a better person and becoming a better leader, which is what I need.
Well, it was selfish on our part because you're such an instrumental part of the team. If you're better, then we're better. So
exactly.
I would say that was definitely one of my driving reasons. Is like, and it's almost sounds selfish of me, I guess, for us to say that, but at the same time, our big drive this past year and a half or so is putting as much emphasis on training the people we have.
Yeah.
We never did that in the past.
Yeah, we never did that. We always taught ourselves how to.
Well, it was all just kind of
a lot of things, you know.
all kind of internal, slightly kind of like just going to
Yeah.
industry events and kind of learning some stuff. But like now that we're at the size that we are and we have the intentions to kind of keep growing, keep getting bigger and being more efficient as a company,
Yeah.
it's the lessons taught in either one of these books is it just helps everything move
It's smoother.
smoothly. And just like I said, how Echelon, like Echelon Front, thank you for that event. Like
Yeah.
that
Thank you.
was
It's amazing.
amazing event. Like I said, happened seamlessly. Like it's just you guys practice what you preach without a doubt.
And if any of you, JP,
JP.
any
We
of
want
you
JP
want
to
to come
know
on
on the
here
podcast.
and sit down and have a
Jocko.
conversation,
Oh, yeah.
we are so down.
Andrew Paul for like he reached out to me during the all of a sudden like
Oh, yeah.
I was trying
About
because
the
I'm
running.
trying to help with my my personal brand to then help with the company's brand to expand our influence to then obviously gain more. We want to make the pie bigger to
Yeah.
where our company can grow with more customers, more leads, and all that. He had reached out to me. He saw I had posted something about just a picture of the screen. I think it said Extreme Ownership Mustard Dallas, something like that. Leif had saw my post because I tagged him. I tagged Echelon Front. He shared it on his story. From there, Andrew saw it. He saw that my handle is Ultra Running Tint Champ. You know, combining the two technical, I'd say my two technical hobbies or loves that I
yeah.
have is I do love installing, I love tinting, and then I got into ultra running. He had sent me a personal message. Hey, you're here, let's connect. So I went and found him finally during one of the breaks, and then me and him started shooting the shit about ultra running. Like he's putting in for Western States. He's putting his first ticket in. I told him that I'm running the Javelina 100 this weekend with you, and it'll be for my third entry for it. And then we had a great conversation. Like it's
Open invitation. Anybody at Echelon Front, anybody at Origin Maine, Echo Charles. We'd love to talk to you about doing video and making content.
He was the one person.
Did you get to talk to him?
I was one person I didn't approach and talk to. By the last time that I was around him, he already had a pretty significant line. It was jiu-jitsu, so he had a pretty significant line of people talking to him. So.
Yeah.
Well, we shot our shot. Let's see how that goes. We do have to wrap this up. I want to plug the next episode, which we're going to be doing when we get back from that 100-mile race.
No, we got one more in between.
Okay, well, 2 of them from now.
Next episode, it will be us talking about our journey to the ultra, getting into ultras, and to our 100-miler that we have coming up. And then the one after he's referring
That's
to
going to be with Eric.
is going to be the recap of that race, and it'll be with Tint Wiz. It won't just be about running. Neither one of us is going to be just about running. But it will be with Eric from Tint Wiz, where we recap the run with him about just our experience of it, and then also go through, and I can't wait to dive into that conversation with Eric just about what drives him and what made him develop Tint Wiz, because that we've mentioned numerous times, that program has helped us expand and grow our company seamlessly with the communication and tying things together. It's can't thank Eric and the team at Tint Wiz enough.
Yeah.
So you guys know how this thing works. Please follow, subscribe, all of our channels, social, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, podcasts. Follow, subscribe, and we can get the updates on when our next episode's coming out. This has been Born to Tint with Ricky and Josh, and then Brendan. Thank you for being on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.